Hello, everyone. Welcome to the September 2024 koha-US Cataloging Special Interest Group. I have a couple of bugs to mention to folks. I'm going to put a search into the chat on Bugzilla that hopefully will work. It's a search that I created to bugs related to when updates to Mark 21 come along. There's been a discussion on the Koha Community Mattermost chat, which I will put the URL to that in the link, about when these updates happen. Do existing Koha installations update their frameworks or not? And I will admit I've been very lackadaisical. I will put into my default framework for bibliographic records, because the default one is the only one I use, fields that I feel I'll use. Otherwise, I'm kind of lackadaisical about it. But take a look at these. Think about it. There's discussion about making it easier for people to update their frameworks if they have an existing installation. There's another bug I want to point out. Apparently, in the advanced editor, if you use Control-Shift-L or select Choose to link a heading, it will get rid of your subfield E relator information. Now, I don't use this, so I haven't discovered it, but the rest of you might. When I am in the advanced editor and I make my changes and I hit save, our authority linker does magic. And then I get my subfield 9 links. The first search doesn't work. Oh, dang. Okay. So let's see.
Yeah, same. Search name update Mark 21 does not exist.
Dang it. So I put into the search box and saved this to my account. I just went into Bugzilla and I put in this search, just update Mark 21 in quotes. So just try that. Anyway, it's there. And we have already, Margaret brought the question to everyone. Resources, comments, suggestions, hints, advice, how to handle authorities. Margaret.
To do, I get confused about how I'm supposed to, if I'm updating an authority, how to make it link to all the other instances of that. I get confused about how I'm supposed to do that.
Totally understandable, because it's a process that, you know, again, it's kind of like magic. It's electrons. So I'll share a bit about what I do, and I'd love to hear what everyone else does. So I monitor the Library of Congress subject headings, additions, and changes. And since we're very specialized, we're a maritime history museum, I can pretty much just eyeball that list and see if there's any headings we might be using, and then I just look them up. And if we are using a heading that has been changed or updated and it's pretty much a one-to-one thing, I make sure I've got the 010 field in my Koha authority record that matches the 010 field. We're an OCLC library in the OCLC record. And then when I bring that in, I do my batch export from OCLC Connection Client. I import the authority records into Koha. I choose to overlay on that 010 field, and it's pretty much a one-to-one overlay. And then any headings linked in the bibliographic record through that subfield 9, are pretty much correctly updated. I will do a search afterwards to be sure to look for any escapees. And I like the browse search in the OPAC because I can then do a browse and that'll help me catch any typos for escapees. But again, we're a very, very small library. How do other people handle changes? I mean, I will admit I'm not doing names pretty much at all for titles. How are other people handling their authorities? Or not? It's okay. You're among friends. This is recorded, but you're among friends.
I'm ignoring them. I was successful in uploading the entire National Library of Medicine Authority file on a test server. But I didn't upload it on our production server. Someday we might.
Authorities is a future project for us. It's on our to-do list, but we had to clean up the bibliographic records first and the item records.
I know. I'm working through our non-standard subject headings manually. Yeah, and Margaret mentioned in the chat, not an OCLC library. There are, I know there are ways with MarcEdit that you can get authority records. Again, I've played with it. I haven't gone there. And I know you can Z3950 from Koha for authority records.
I've started playing around with the Z3950 and it works really well. I just import it in and it's usually got the Library of Congress one in there and it looks nice and pretty because basically our system started out, we just created authority records if there weren't any. We just let the system generate them. And we're still letting the system generate them, which is crazy because they just keep, it's just ballooning and ballooning and ballooning because we'll have, when we import maybe a record from Baker and Taylor or something, it'll create a whole bunch of weird authorities and then those subjects will get deleted and then the authorities are just hanging out, not doing anything. So I highly recommend if you are going to get into authorities and wanting to use them, turn off the thing that creates new ones at some point.
Yeah, we did turn it off because we had that happening. Yeah, but we've still got them hanging around and I'm trying to get rid of them.
The plugin that you can use to delete ones with no records attached is really fun to just do when you need something, a brain break, because you can only do like 5,000, search 5,000 authorities at a time, but it'll pull up, all the ones with 0 records attached, and then you can go to your batch delete and delete the authorities and just do that for a while.
That sounds like fun. And it's a plugin. Do I have it? I don't know if I have it.
It's a plugin that Bywater developed. They can help you get it in there. Otherwise, it's on their Bywater GitHub thing to install, and there's pretty good documentation on how to use it on that where they host the plugins.
What's the name of it?
Unused authorities.
Okay.
And I believe they corrected the spelling because I put in a ticket because they spelled authorities wrong.
Okay, I'll see what I can find out about that. Thanks.
I'll also point out that authorities can be merged. It's in the Koha manual. It works really well. And in case there's anyone here who's an entire newbie to the concept and probably doesn't really have a clue about what we're talking about, authority records pretty much host cross-references and references from unused terms to used terms. Or C also, like,
Hey, Heather.
yeah,
I would
Sherry.
like to just warn people against merging like 650s and 655s, even if it's the same thing, because we had a huge thing. It took away all of our romance fiction authority records. Thousands of them were gone. So just make sure it's like, you know, genres or topics that you're merging.
Yes, the same type. Very good point, Sherry. Yeah, a 650 is a topical subject heading. A 655 is a genre heading. So what it is about versus what it is. Make sure you're only merging the same type. There is an instance when we have different types. Recently, I'm going to get this wrong because I really have only had my first pot of half calf coffee. What the cataloging rules changed so that, if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, and double check me if no one corrects me here, the fictitious people have been or were like 600s and are going to 650s or 650s to 600s. So it's, like Frodo Baggins, something like that. So that might be a case where there's different types, but otherwise, yeah, there's a don't merge your books about romance fiction with your books that are romance fiction. Thank you, Sherry.
I have a question on the benefits of creating authority records, or say, like I have an authority record for, I don't know, cats fiction. Should I also have an authority record for cats juvenile fiction, or should I just not worry about those?
I'd love to hear what other people think. I would say it depends on your users. For example, your cat's fiction, do you want, is there a reference like see also broader term tigers fiction, lions fiction, or narrative, narrower term lions fiction? Are the children going to want to have references between cats and lions and house cats and Siamese cats versus cats? This is what authorities do, is lead the user around those things. Personally, I love reading novels that contain cats. I mean, the Cat Wizards series, highly recommended. So I'm a user who benefits from all kinds of cross-references about cats in fiction.
I was thinking Calvin and Hobbes.
Yes.
Well, and I think also it's a question of, we have a newer cataloger. So if you're, and this probably isn't a good example for it, but if you have cats fiction and we had an authority record for that, when she saves, she automatically knows, that that's an authority. Whereas over on the cat's juvenile fiction side, we didn't have an authority record set up for that. So when she saves, it's like, is that the correct term or not? And like I said, there's probably a better example of what the, subject could be. But so it was also in that realm, not only just the public, but also knowing, are we using the correct terms?
I do all of my authority verification at the point of cataloging, but again, I'm a solo cataloger in a very small ish. We're kind of small, medium, large, small. So I can do that. Yeah, I double check all the headings. We are in a CLC library, so it's very easy for me. I hit a F11. But for headings that are I'm not finding, and I'm not sure what the term is, I do intentionally search the authority file in OCLC, or if I'm not finding anything, which of course happens, we all get items outside of what we do every day. I find just doing a keyword search at the Library of Congress catalog, catalog.loc.gov, and then looking up books titles that they have cataloged on similar topics and see what their headings are. And then their authority records are at authorities.loc.gov or id.loc.gov. That really helps. And talking about fiction and juvenile fiction, we're also talking about free-floating subdivisions. Totally fun. They're valid under most headings as long as it's logical. Let me see if I can find that list online. Does anyone have any other authorities questions, headings questions?
I sort of played around with downloading the LC authority files. Didn't get anywhere, but I gave up because something else needed my attention. I think it's possible, it just takes a little more spelunking.
Here we go. I've got the list of the subject headings manual PDF files at the Library of Congress. I'll put that into the chat. This reminds me too, when we're talking about the KOHA manual and cataloging and OCLC or not, in the KOHA documentation group, there's been discussion about what should be in the KOHA manual and what should be on the KOHA wiki. And so we're moving the content related only to third-party software to the KOHA wiki. So I had just updated the OCLC connection client section in the KOHA manual, but now what's going to stay in the KOHA manual is just the KOHA stuff. How do you set up KOHA to work with OCLC connection client? And then all of the content related to just using the OCLC connection client with KOHA is going to go into the KOHA wiki. I pretty much got that there and working on updating the manual. I think I mentioned this before, that I'm going to then try the same with the mark edit sections. The KOHA wiki will have the strictly mark edit stuff. And also there's new stuff in the KOHA manual just added for OCLC WorldShare libraries. But the stuff related to the strictly OCLC stuff I'm going to move that to the wiki. So hopefully that'll be clearer. So take a look at the KOHA wiki. Help, fix my typos. Add stuff I miss. There was another discussion in the community about using the date accessioned field in item records. That's the 952 subfield D. Do people use it? I use it sometimes for reports. but I find it's not actually a super reliably set date.
Well, I add most of the actual physical items. I download those OCLC records with connection, which I'm finally getting a handle on. Yay! Thank you. And then, yeah, just put it in automatically when I'm going through the add item for electronic book records. I add an item record in MarkEdit that has a date for, can't remember, there are 3 of them. Can't remember which fields they are, but I just change all of those. It sometimes helps to see when I added a book that's going to be deleted. Accession date also helps when a book runs away. Okay, wow, that one lasted 2 months.
And in the chat, we have mentioned, Jason, it mentions they rely on date accessioned for weeding alongside copyright date. And Bridget mentioned using date accessioned in edit items.
I also have another semi-neat thing to say about the session date, but 001 records, but we'll get to that later.
I think, go ahead, Fred. The 001 is a weird field. It has no subfields.
Quite true. I am getting back to electronic books, online books. I think I told the story a while ago, maybe last month. If it sounds really familiar, well, maybe there's some new people here who haven't heard it. Online books get added and deleted frequently, and you can either search by, well, no, I'm on WorldShare, so just download the marked files of records to be deleted. Sometimes they're not actually gone, but it's a story for another day. So I started using the 001 field in the 952 barcode field. It's a lot easier to search for 150 deleted records by using something. I mean, batch item delete doesn't do something like OCLC number or ISBN, just does biblio and barcode. And of course, those aren't in the records that they send us. So, I tried putting it in, and so far it is sort of working. We have a whole batch of new deleted books from Rittenhouse. In fact, I was doing this as we were speaking here. I just exported every R2 book without a barcode, put it in MarkEdit, copied the 001 to 952p, recompiled, updated, and it worked for some of them, but not all of them. So as soon as we finish the meeting, I'm going to look into it. Like the other thing I was going to talk about today, it's not something everyone needs, but it might be helpful for some libraries. The 001 is a unique record. So I know that I am deleting that one I uploaded when we got it from WorldShare. Sure hope.
This sounds like an interesting conference presentation, Fred. Your workflow for deleting electronic records.
Might be a 10 to 15-minute talk. But I'd have to have another cataloger in with me for some of the other interesting, semi-interesting catalog tips and tricks.
My presentation for next year is going to be on journal indexing and how to create it in Koha using linking fields, the 001, the 003. So, and how to, I've deleted, so some of them I'm, what we have in our system is missing subjects, and a new library has subjects in theirs. So we're taking hers and deleting the old ones. And then some we're just updating what's there. But for conference presentations, but we'll kind of get into the 001s. That does your system preferences matter if with the 001. So which I talked about, whatever conference that was. If you have your use control number set, they kind of need to be your bib number if you're wanting to use linking fields. Or actually, you can use other numbers. It could be an OCLC number, but you do not want duplicates. Duplicates are bad. Because we had a lot that people were just like importing from all over the place. And we turned that use control number on, and we're getting all these like little error messages at the top. And I'm like, it took a while to figure out, oh, we have duplicate 001s. Someone has created an SQL report in the wiki to find all of the duplicate 001s, especially related to OCLC, which is very helpful. And there's another, I feel like there's two reports on the 001 in the wiki, because I feel like I've used more than one to fix our problems that was causing issues with the journal index. I feel like I'm in a rabbit hole. I feel like I'm in a black hole with this journal index.
It's okay, Lauren. We're here for you. It sounds like a fantastic conference presentation, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to being done. So that I can, write the presentation.
You could also set up 001 as a match point when you're importing records. I don't know if that would do anything.
It would depend on what they'd have to be clean. Like you couldn't have any duplicates. We've set, there's one system preference. So AutoCreate the 001, which is so helpful. So when you create a new record, if the 001 field is empty, it will automatically put your bib number in the 001 for you. So that you don't have to do it.
The 999 fields?
Yeah. So all of our 999 fields are our 001 because we're not part of OCLC. So we don't use standard numbers. We're local, but all of our consortium, like we have multiple libraries, so I can't have every library have the same 001. Koha doesn't like that. It gets confused. Similar to the 999. I mean, the 001, I feel like almost is the same as a 999 CD, as that bib number field, like how it operates sometimes. Because if they're not the same, or if there's a duplicate, because if I get I don't know how I have gotten a duplicate 999 field before. Don't know how that happened, but it happened. and I had to create a new record and delete the duplicate and to get rid of it.
Are you
And
getting them from 2 instances of Koha?
I inherited it. It was a problem that I inherited, and it showed up with an upgrade. Like what I guess what you could do on historic Koha and what you can do on recent Koha are 2 different things. So like as the program gets better, it's starting to identify all the things that we did wrong and we need to fix, or because we are a consortium, it's easier to have duplicate stuff because it's coming, 2 places are putting it in, and so cleaning all of that up but your one thing with your 001 is your 003 does matter if you're doing linking fields.
Sometimes.
Okay, because all of our linking fields, if we want, so like our article records, we want shared with multiple library records. Because there's so many volumes in a journal, we chose to separate them out instead of having one journal with 300 item records on it. That wouldn't load in Koha. And if you make the 003 the same for both, the linking will work on both. But if they're different 003s, that only works if it's one to like two records are linking to each other, which we have for the online and our print. But if one record's wanting to link to multiple places, then the 003 needs to be the same. In addition to the 003. Yeah, I guess that probably should be part of the presentation. The fun with that's just been a very interesting learning lesson.
It sounds like it's a 2-part presentation, linking for non-OCLC libraries and linking for OCLC libraries, because because you're, as a non-OCLC library, if I understand it correctly, your 999 subfield C and D matches what we see in the bibliographic URL, that Koha record number.
Right.
Is also your 001 field.
Yes.
However, for us as an OCLC library, the Koha record number in the 999 subfield C and D and the bibliographic URL is one number, and we have an OCLC record number in the 001.
So it looks like they do the same thing. It's just yours is a bigger. Yeah, when I'm done with this, I'll probably have to share it with everybody, and because it a lot of it is going to depend on what your external, like what you're using, and I'm sure Aspen plays into it too. If you have a discovery service on top of it, that's probably going to change how you're some of your linking fields. Maybe not operate, but how they're viewed in the OPAC. But OCLC, yeah, we can't afford OCLC.
Yeah, it costs. I will mention too, if folks have not seen or didn't attend the last koha-US meeting yesterday, or haven't viewed the recording yet, there was a wonderful presentation on Aspen, and there's a lot of good Aspen contacts. So perhaps some Aspen folks would like to also give a conference presentation, or be the part 3 of the conference presentation on how this is for Aspen installations who use Aspen as a discovery layer.
Okay, this sounds my idea that I'm about to present. This probably ridiculous, but I'd like to throw the germ of an idea in to see who it infects. Could you, Lauren, set up a large central catalog like OCLC and have all your libraries download all their bib records. So you could have one 999 C and D 1001, and they upload them and then download once they've been through the one catalog to rule them all and into darkness to bind them.
That would work, except for when they export a Z3950 from somewhere else, they have no idea what to put in the 001. Because you don't know what number my big central catalog is, unless all of those libraries are importing it back in. So OCLC, what makes it work is, yes, you're getting records from them, but all of those libraries are also importing them back in so that there is a centralized numbering system. And I feel like OCLC has somebody who manages that. Because every now and then it's like, I think there's two numbers. This is going to.
Yes, there is a whole OCLC quality control staff, and they run a lot of automated duplicate detection. And then also we OCLC users report duplicates too that require humans to merge. And there are other numbers in the universe that are aiming to be this. An ISBN, for example, International Standard Book Number, tries and aims to be unique for each edition, but we all know about that. And for what the Library of Congress has, the LCCN, which used to be the Library of Congress card number back when we had cataloging cards, that also tries to be unique. It is for each record. But again, the Library of Congress is the Library of Congress. They only have what fits into their mission. They're not a real actual national library. So yeah, there are aims for this, Fred. One number to rule them all would be great. And I think with international efforts moving towards more linking in the world of cataloging, URIs for entities are aiming to be unique for the entities, and perhaps we are aiming for unique URIs for works and manifestations of works.
Yeah, in order to get my pseudo idea to work, you'd have to have more staff at your end, because you'd have to establish you cannot add something to your catalog until you've sent it to us and we've added it to our catalog. Which
Right.
would be
That
possible,
would be
but
you would have to, all of the new record, like the books would have to come to you first, and you catalog it in yours, and then you send the books and the records, but they do not add anything locally. It all goes through a central system, which I think I know within school systems, some counties have chosen to do that. There is a central office that does all the cataloging. So if you buy a book, you have to ship it.
Yes, there are systems that do this, academic systems as well. It's a paradigm of centralized library of services for a union catalog.
Yeah.
I think the idea of URIs is for decentralized. It's looking at the fact that they're in the linked information universe. There is no physical central. So to VIAF is one of these approaches.
Yeah. Can the URI be based on DOI, or could they be interchangeable?
DOI.
Digital Object Identifier. Used a lot in medical journal articles. I'm not sure where else. That's what I do for a living, is medicals.
When I worked at the University of Iowa, I'm fairly sure that our URI field was filled with the DOI. That's precisely what we did. So
Yeah, I used that for the 856 U.
I think under the hood it was, but I never saw that at the time. I was working in a development environment. I don't know if it's actually been released yet now. I think it probably has. It's called Esploro by Ex Libris. They have Primo, which some of you may be familiar with, but UI has been a development partner with them along with a few others. And I thought they'd released it now, but I can't remember.
That sounds really interesting and exciting, and it's kind of bringing us back to that universe of linking.
Yeah, Esploro was designed to be utilized for institutional repositories. So we were doing a big migration into Esploro, and it looks like it's now available. It's not as deeply in development as it was, I guess. Because we didn't have any documentation at all. It was a Wild West.
Do you have any links to more information you could pop in the chat?
I can put in what I found here. I just
Yes, please.
That's a little bit about it generally. I'm no longer at U Iowa, but I don't remember where. I think I worked on the back end of it, so I never, in fact, at the time I was working on it, they were just putting together a prototype front end so you could look at it. But the students could try and use it. There it is. This is U Iowa's IRO.
Cool, thank you.
It's been skinned to look like their other things, but oh wow, this looks so much better than it did the first time. It's fun to see. It's been like 3 years now, so yeah.
It is looking nice.
There's a conference coming up. They're accepting the applications for presentations, so maybe a couple months hence. Medical institutional repositories and libraries. Some of you might be interested in. Maybe not your field, but your techniques.
Well, I'm no longer at U Iowa, so this is well outside my gamut. I'm just responding because you asked about the DOI, and I remember specifically doing that. I now work at Family Search.
I was using the plural U.
Ah, fair enough. Yeah.
We have a few more minutes if anybody else has anything they'd like to bring up. I'm going to pop into the chat the link for KohaCon 2024, which is coming up.
So I've have asked in Mattermost, but I would like to get more feedback here. On the koha to mark mapping that is in koha. Like,
Are you talking about for searching?
So one, if anyone can help clear up the somewhat, I still have a very fuzzy picture, but it is getting clearer every day. So I must be getting close. Real life is entering into my library world. I can't see anything without glasses real far away until I get like 3 feet. So I feel like I'm still like maybe 10 feet away from koha to mark mapping. My understanding is it will affect what comes up in reporting, in your SQL reporting. So it's good to map things that way. It does influence some of your searching, possibly, especially the item search, I think. I'm not totally I think it may have something to do with your overall searching and how things are labeled, but not totally sure about that, because I know your indexing service of Zebra and Elasticsearch really affect that. At the deep level. And I feel like the koha to mark mapping may be a more like surface type thing. Does anyone have like more knowledge you can share? You can correct me where I'm wrong. You could tell me the fields that you have put in.
I probably did a few fields for the author's catalog, but it's been so long I can't remember. But I could take a look.
Well, and I did hear that because one of the things someone suggested was go to a sandbox, copy what's there, and compare it with my old instance, because with every new instance of koha, it has all of the Mark 21 fields, the koha to mark mapping, like they've already updated all of that stuff in the new one. But when you just go from one version, you just keep with a fresh install, it's there. When you just update, it doesn't do that, because it doesn't want to mess up what you are. It doesn't want to overwrite what you have there, which I'm very appreciative. But that means, I have to do it manually.
So for us, it's mainly for reports. Like
Okay.
you're saying this mark field goes into this database field, so then I can run a report on this database field to see what's in that mark field. So because when you query mark, it takes forever and it's not fun and it's hard to write that SQL. The manual does mention that it is also used for displaying information on pages. So that's sort of vague. I don't know exactly how that ties in, but yeah, mainly it's for reporting, I think.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else?
I put a link in the chat to the koha schema that lists the fields. I like doing reports with mark tags because I understand mark tags. And then when I'm trying to do a report that is not using mark tags, the schema is where that stuff is.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been looking at that sort of thing. I'd like to get a sense of how those things are all connected. And I love looking at these database diagrams, but I am admittedly still lost. I think I understand how to interpret these, but I don't see anything when I'm looking at the schema. If I look at a biblio number, I don't see, all of the various mark fields connected to it. I see a handful of things that make sense, would be one field or another, the timestamp, in the notes, I assume, is the 500 field. But I don't know that because nothing that I see here tells me that is the case.
So that's precisely what the co-automark mapping is. So there's a UI in administration that's showing you biblio.abstract is linked to the 520A, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And yours can differ from other systems, which is what Lauren was talking about. Like she's got stuff in there, then they update, but the mappings don't update because hers are customized to her system.
So I have to look at my own. Oh, fun. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, we ran into that a little bit because we had it only mapped to the copyright date just to the 260 and not the 264. So I went in and edited that, and then I had to have Bywater rebuild the thing. And I snuck in there the non-public notes without really thinking about what the consequence of mapping that was. And the old way they had done non-public notes didn't link correctly or something. And so then one of our other libraries is like, where'd they all go? They couldn't find them. And I could run a report using the mark whatever, but then I had to redo all their non-public notes. So I'm not exactly sure. Just be careful if you do that particular one.
I will, oh, go ahead. I will also point out that the item search is very powerful. That in your Koha catalog, in the staff interface, when you pop open that little search and go to item search, and you scroll down, and there's a little box that you can open that's already populated with barcode, call number, inventory number. You can, in your administration, add custom search fields, and you can pretty much put in any field and subfield you'd like in there. So that's a very powerful way to just quickly search some specific fields rather than having to go build reports with them.
It does far more than I thought it did. A lot of Koha does.
There's another t-shirt idea. It does far more than I thought it did. We can add it to like our Indicators Matter t-shirt. And I think from Lauren, what you were saying earlier, we should have one that says duplicates are bad.
Hey, that sounds like a good conference theme. It does more than you thought it did. That is a conference theme right there. So whoever's on the conference committee, we've got next year's theme for you.
There we are.
Or, I didn't know it did that. That's another.
Speaking of which, this is another nifty trick that works. I can use. I'm not sure if anyone else can use, but along the way, someone else could find it. I'm very slowly cataloging my book collection, and I like having a source where I bought the book. So, did you know that Koha does QR codes? Just go into the barcode creator, put in a barcode. So I have a QR code for Amazon, Politics and Prose, Powell's, Big Chicken Barn, and a few other places. And and that field is filled in. And this isn't quite as useful, but I do also have type and condition, mint, very fine, fine, very good, good, poor. It's in a drop-down menu. I have 3 different 952Z fields. And sometimes it's easier than scrolling through all of the new or used, remainder, dust jacket, torn dust jacket. But for one of my posters, I downloaded a QR code from somewhere. When I got to the conference, it had expired because they wanted me to pay. Well, Koha doesn't want you to pay for their QR codes.
Very good tip, Fred. Well, we are just about at the top of the hour. Anybody have anything quick?
I have just one matter of logistics. On the calendar invite for this SIG, there were 2 URLs, so some of us had difficulty joining. So it looked like there was a URL to the acquisition SIG and a URL to the cataloging SIG.
Okay, thank you for letting us know. I will mention that to the super helpful koha-US folks who handle that, and we'll get that cleared up. Thank you for letting us know. Well, thank you everybody for attending. I will go ahead and stop the recording.